All right, so the first thing we have to do is, whenever we're doing problems involving 0.05 significance levels, we'll just put a little L in there. Anytime we're doing these problems, the first thing we got to do is figure out what the claim is. And so when you're doing this, you always have to look for the words test the claim. These are the words that you will see for almost all these problems. Okay, so use this to test the claim. There it is. Now, whatever comes after that is a very important part. Test the claim that the percent of people who started shopping already is more than 50%. More than 50%. So in words, we're talking about a percentage. We're not talking about mu. We're talking about a P. We're testing the claim that P is more than 50%. So that's our claim. Okay? Now, if the claim is that P is more than 50%, the first step is to define HO and H1. Remember that HO is the null hypothesis. H1 is the alternative hypothesis. HO must contain which sign? It's got to contain an equal sign. So HO has to have an equal sign, and then H1 can either be a greater than, a less than, or not equal to. Okay? So the first thing you got to do is remember that these are the rules for HO and H1, and then ask yourself, what does this one have and where should it go? P is greater than 0.5. That must come right here. P is greater than 0.50. HO must have an equal sign, so for that we're going to do P is equal to 0.50 or 0.5. Okay. Part B. Are we going to do a left tail, right tail, or a two-tail test? We're going to do a right tail. How do you know? Because it's greater than. Remember for part B, if H1 is greater than, we do a right tail test. If H1 is less than, we'll do a left tail test. And if H1 is not equal to, we will do a two-tail test. Okay? So that's how you'll tell which one you're supposed to use based on what the symbol is. By the way, I would encourage you not to just look at HO. I've had students who go, well, I'd look at HO. Yeah, if all you do is look at HO, it never changes. And somebody goes, well, sometimes mine does. Okay, it's just getting worse. Okay, if your HO is changing, that's not good on any level. All right, always look at H1. So, this is a right tail test, where this is the rejection region. Your rejection region is 0.05, so this is 0.05. Now, you're typically going to go to a z-score chart, and ordinarily, like a really good instructor would have a z-score chart open that he could pull up. But I don't have that. So, it's 1.645. Okay, go to your z-score chart. Here, I'll draw the chart for you. Looks like this. 0.0, 0.1, so forth and so on. 0.00, 0.01, so forth and so on. Somewhere you're going to find a star between 0.0505 and 0.0495. When you do that, star is going to point you down to the bottom of the page, and it's going to tell you the answer is 1.645. Write that down. That's basically the z-score chart, simplified. Part C, you got to know the formula. Z equals P hat minus P divided by the square root of PQ over N. Part D, we got to figure out what P hat is. How do we figure out what P hat is? It's 127 divided by 215. So we're going to go... Clear this, 127 divided by 215, and we're going to get the p hat as 0.59. Okay, so we're going to go z equals 0.59 minus 0.50 divided by the square root of 0.5 times 0.5 divided by 215. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring that up, calculator back up, and let's go ahead and type that in. We're going to do open parenthesis 0.59 minus 0.50 divided by square root 0.5 times 0.5 divided by 215. Enter. And you're going to get 2.64. We all agree with that? So what I'm going to do is take this, and we're going to paste it right there. Okay. So you get 2.64. Now, what do you have to do for Part E? Part E, you're either going to say reject HO or fail to reject HO. Okay. Now, Locke says we should reject. Is that just because we have a negative personality?
No.
And you just reject everything? Like all my good ideas are just rejected? Is that right?
No.
I'm sorry, I have issues sometimes. Why do we reject?
Because it's in the rejection reason.
So you take the 2.63, you take this, hell with it, and you plug it into this value. Where does 2.64 fall? Here's 0, here's 1.6, and 2.6 is even further than that, right? So 2.6 is over here somewhere. Maybe if I use a different color, it'll help. Oh, much clearer. Okay. There's your 2.64. So do you reject or fail to reject HO? Well, it's in the rejection region, so you will reject HO. Bless you. If you reject HO, you're saying that HO is true or false? If you reject HO, HO is false, and H1 then would be? Which one is the claim? Is it HO or is it H1? It's H1. A lot of times you'll see me when I'm doing this on my own, I'll put a star next to the claim. And that way, if I have a star next to the claim, I can look at it and go, well, the star is true. So therefore, my claim is true. And that helps me to understand, do I support or not support the claim? At a 0.05 level of significance, there is sufficient evidence to support the claim that mu is greater, or p is greater than 0.5. Okay. For part G, you got to memorize it for this chapter, for this section. Since n times p and n times q greater or equal to 5, the sample proportion is normally distributed. All right. That concludes our example for that. Any questions on that?
What do you do when like a question?
It's a really good question. The question was, what if the claim was not greater than 0.5? What if it were equal to 0.5? And how does that change that picture that we saw? Because if the claim is that P is equal to 0.5, then part A would be HO P equals 0.5, H1 would be that P is not equal to 0.5, right? Then B, because this is a not equal sign, B would be a two-tail test. And let's suppose our level of significance is 0.05. Then that 0.05 is not going here and here. It's not 0.05, 0.05. It's 0.025 and 0.025. You'd have to divide it up. Then when you look it up on the chart, you get 1.96. Okay? So that's how it would change. Good question. Yeah, of course. Other questions?
What would you say for errors?
I would still let you get by with do you support or not support the claim. Technically, that's not exactly right for that problem, but I'd let you get by with that. Okay. The question was, what would part F be? And I said, I'd still allow you to support or not support. Okay. Other questions?